Lee Min-ho has finally broken his silence. And this time it wasn't vague. It wasn't careful. It wasn't rehearsed. It was real. And what he said about Kim Go-eun left fans in tears. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming updates on Lee Min-ho, Kim Go-eun, and other K-drama love stories that steal our hearts. Now, let's begin. It's been years since the king, eternal monarch, ended. But the chemistry between Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun never did. Not on set, not off set, not even when the cameras stopped rolling. Over time, fans had picked up the clues. The subtle glances, the matching jewelry, the shared vacations that were never confirmed, but always suspected. And when both stars went quiet on social media at the same time, fans whispered, was it coordinated? Were they together? Or was it just coincidence? No one really knew, because for the longest time, both Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun remained respectfully silent. Until now. It happened during a special sit-down interview. Lee Min-ho was promoting his latest drama. The host was lighthearted at first, talking about his role, his travels, his routines. But then came the question. It wasn't direct. It never is. They simply asked, "You've been linked to many actresses over the years, but there's one name that always seems to come up. Kim Go-eun. Is there anything you'd like to say about that?" Lee Min-ho didn't laugh. He didn't deflect. He just paused. And then he smiled. That soft, quiet smile that fans know all too well. The one that only ever shows up when her name is mentioned. And then he said it. "She's my person." 3 words. That was it. But it was everything. The host blinked, surprised. And Lee Min-ho didn't backtrack. He went on. "People always ask if we're dating or if we're just friends," he said. "And I've always avoided answering because not everything sacred needs to be explained. But if you're asking me what she means to me, I'll say this. She's my person." The studio fell silent. Even the staff behind the cameras stopped moving. Because in an industry where everything is scripted, this moment was not. He continued, slowly. "She's been there in ways most people don't see. Not just during projects, but in the quiet times. When things weren't so glamorous. She's solid. She's soft, but strong. She makes the world feel safer." It was as if, for the first time, he was letting the walls down. And letting the world in. He wasn't just confirming a rumor. He was sharing a truth. And fans everywhere? They felt it. They heard it. And they believed it. Because for so long, people had watched their story unfold in whispers and quiet glances. But now they were finally hearing it in his voice. Raw, honest, unfiltered. The interview clip went viral within minutes. On Twitter, "She's my person" trended worldwide. Fans shared old clips of them on set, laughing, leaning into each other, smiling like the world disappeared when they were near. The puzzle pieces had always been there. But now they had the final one. And it fit perfectly. Back in Seoul, Kim Go-eun was filming when the clip aired. She hadn't expected it. She didn't know he would say anything. But when her stylist handed her the phone and said, "You need to see this," she sat in silence. Watched the words. Read his expression. And then she smiled. That same soft smile she wore the night he lost Chaco, and she showed up without a word. That smile that said, "I'm here. I've always been here." Later that evening, she posted a photo to Instagram. No caption. Just a single image. A quiet sunset. And in the corner, barely visible, 2 coffee mugs on a wooden table. One of them had the letter L. The other, G. No tags. No explanation. Just peace. Just warmth. Just love. And in the comments, fans didn't ask for more. They simply wrote, "We understand. Finally. And we're so happy for you both." The agencies didn't rush out to clarify or deny. There were no damage control statements. No PR moves. Because there was no damage. Only truth. And when it's the kind of love that's built on years of quiet understanding, there's nothing to fix. Only something to celebrate. A few days later, Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun were spotted again. Not hiding. Not sneaking. just walking side by side in a quiet park in Gangnam. A few fans saw them. They didn't take photos. They didn't chase. They just smiled and let them be. Because that's what you do when you witness something beautiful. You let it breathe. And the way he looked at her, it was everything. Like someone who had waited long enough. And finally didn't need to wait anymore. An insider from his management team later shared anonymously. He's been happier lately. Calmer. More focused. I think settling into this stage of his life, with her in it, has grounded him in a really beautiful way. And the same was said about Kim Go-eun. Her close friend reportedly told a magazine, "She's glowing these days." And when we joke about Lee Min-ho, she just laughs and changes the subject. But the blush on her face says everything. It was subtle. It was quiet. But it was undeniable. This was no longer just a rumor. This was real. And even though they might never post a couple photo, or make a red carpet debut as lovers, they didn't need to. Because when he said, "She's my person," he wasn't seeking attention. He was telling the truth. For himself. And maybe for her. In a world full of noise, their love had been the calm. In an industry full of performance, theirs had been the reality. And now, fans could finally exhale. Because love, the kind that grows slow and steady, had won. They had chosen each other. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Over and over again. The next week, Kim Go-eun was asked during a press event if she had seen Lee Min-ho's interview. She looked up, eyes soft. Then she said, "Yes, I did. And I smiled all day." She didn't elaborate. But she didn't need to. Because when someone calls you their person on national television, sometimes the only response you need to give is a smile that says, "I know. Me too." And that's exactly what she did. So here's to Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun. To their journey. Unscripted and beautiful. To the quiet moments that shaped them. To the bond that remained steady, even when the world questioned it. And to the love that finally found the light. Because no matter how long it took, they chose each other. Softly. Gently. Completely. She's my person. 3 words that rewrote everything. When Lee Min-ho called Kim Go-eun my person, the world held its breath. It was rare. It was honest. It was love, spoken clearly, without hesitation. But what came next was something no one expected. Something private. Something deeply personal. But somehow the world caught a glimpse of it anyway. Because just 2 weeks after that moment,